A pleasant morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar for today, Empowering Investors, Key Strategies for Safe Financial Practices in a Digital World. My name is Nilda Sosa. I'm the Director of Operations and Corporate Services here at the Financial Services Commission, and it's my pleasure and honor to be the moderator for today's webinar. I am joining a group of experts that will be sharing insightful information that I'm sure will be of benefit to you all. This webinar concludes a series of activities as part of our World Investor Week 2025, of which we're a part of. The World Investor Week is an initiative that is coordinated and led by IOSCO, which is the International Organization for Securities Commissions. And this webinar forms a key component of our broader public education program aimed at promoting investor protection and awareness. Today's objectives is to highlight the role of financial regulators in supporting investor and financial protection, to share practical insights and lessons from a private investor's personal journey, and of course, to encourage our responsible investment practices through education and open dialogue. It's our pleasure to welcome you once again. And to initiate our webinar, I will be introducing Mr. Marlon Kus. He's the Director of Licensing and Authorizations here at FSC. And in his role, he's dedicated to advancing the Commission's function to promote and develop Belize as a leading financial services center while protecting and enhancing Belize's international reputation in the industry. And he's going to honor us with a few welcome remarks. Mr. Kuz, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Nilo. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Financial Services Commission of Belize, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to today's webinar, held as part of IOSCO's World Investor Week 2025. World Investor Week is a global initiative that brings together regulators, financial institutions, and investors to promote financial literacy and investor protection. So each year, IOSCO highlights key themes that reflect the changing realities of our financial world. For 2025, the themes are technology and digital finance, artificial intelligence, and fraud and scam prevention, complemented by discussions on crypto assets and the basics of investing. So these topics are especially timely as technology transforms the way we invest and access financial services. New opportunities are emerging for growth and inclusion. However, these advances also bring new risks, including cyber threats, online scams, and misleading investment offers. So in this evolving environment, investor education and vigilance are more important than ever. So this webinar, titled Empowering Investors, Key Strategies for Safe Financial Practices in a Digital World, aims to equip participants with practical tools and insights to navigate this complex landscape confidently and responsibly. So we are privileged to have an outstanding panel of speakers with us today, each bringing valuable expertise and perspective. First, we'll hear from Mr. Christopher Magan from PPF Financial Services Limited, who will speak on balancing opportunity and risk in today's market and the importance of responsible behavior by both investor and issuers. And then we have Ms. Carla Vaccaro from the Central Bank of Belize, who will share updates on key strategic initiatives aimed at shaping the digital financial landscape through implementation of an instant payment system, digital financial education, investor portal, and risk-based supervision. We will hear from Ms. Teresa McFoy from the Financial Services Commission, who will discuss how to spot red flags, avoid scams and investment fraud, and understand how the growing impact of artificial intelligence on financial decisions. Lastly, we will hear from Mr. Hiro Balani from Finance Belize, who will highlight the role of Finance Belize in addressing industry challenges, enhancing global finance Belize in addressing industry challenges, enhancing global competitiveness, and driving long-term sustainable development within our financial sector. So together, these presentations will help us better understand how to take advantage of opportunities in the digital economy while protecting ourselves and maintaining confidence in our financial system. So as we begin, I encourage everyone to participate, actively ask questions, share ideas, and reflect on how these lessons can strengthen your personal and professional financial practices. By working together, we can continue to build a safer, smarter, and more resilient financial ecosystem for Belize. Thank you all for joining us, and special thanks to our distinguished speakers and partners for supporting the FSC's ongoing mission to empower, protect, and educate investors. I wish you all an engaging and insightful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kus, and you summarized in a very effective manner the theme under IOSCA's campaign, which is stay informed and stay protected. And I believe that's the reason why you all have joined this webinar. Before I introduce our first guest speaker, a few matters that I would like to share with you. We have a Q&A segment at the end of the webinar. Any questions that you may have, there is a question tab on the webinar platform. Kindly use that section to place your questions. If you have a specific speaker that you would want to direct that question to, you can feel free to indicate so. We're going to try our best to answer some of the questions on the platform. Other than that, we're going to transfer the questions to the question and answer segment. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Christopher Magan from PPF Financial Services Limited. He is the managing director of PPF Capital Belize Limited and has over 14 years of experience in Belize's business and financial services sector. He has worked in financial regulation, private banking, and energy. His areas of expertise include MSME capacity building, financial and economic analysis, green finance and risk management, and also strategic planning. Mr. Magan, he holds a bachelor's degree in international financial markets from Anglia Ruskin University, United Kingdom, and a master's degree in international banking and financial services from the University of Reading, United Kingdom. He will be walking us through what it is to navigate the investment frontier. Mr. Magan.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. To the FSC for inviting me to be part of World Investor Week 2025. My topic today is navigating Belize's investment frontier, how we can make smarter choices, build safer markets, and develop stronger issuers. The idea of the frontier here is deliberate. It's a place of discovery, but also one that requires guidance and trust. And that's what we'll explore here today. By way of an overview of what we'll cover, a well-functioning market has a job of connecting investors who have capital with issuers who need it. And that connection is built on trust. In Belize, that trust depends on three pillars working together. So today I'll touch on investors, those who need safe and transparent opportunities, issuers who need efficient ways to raise capital, and issues, some of the systemic challenges we must overcome to make our market stronger. So we'll start with a quick overview of Belize's financial system. As at the end of 2024, total financial assets were estimated at 7.6 billion, of which 5.2 billion of those assets were held by commercial banks. That's about 2/3 of total financial assets. In Belize, our capital market or securities market can best be described as underdeveloped or nascent, as there's no stock exchange and most of the issues are in debt securities. From the banking side, we also have a situation where there's persistent excess liquidity. That means banks are holding more cash than they're legally required to, and we have declining interest rates, lower rate of return for savers and investors holding funds in banks. That's the perfect opportunity for capital markets to come in and solve that problem and help to deploy some of the excess funds that are involved or exist in Belize's financial system. We'll deep dive now into the domestic market. Again, this market, the analysis focused mainly on the debt issuance side of it. The biggest issuer or borrower in this case is the government of Belize. The total debt securities, kind of estimated as at the end of 2024 as well, was 1.84 billion Belize dollars, with government of Belize treasury bills and treasury notes accounting for 1.43 billion, and all other debt securities that we're aware of accounting for about 415 million. Um, while the bulk of the issues have been on the government side, issues in terms of bringing securities to market, there has been some traction in the last 5 to 6 years, as shown by the graph on the right, with municipalities, utilities, and other entities offering securities more recently. In addition, we also have the new regulatory framework with the Securities Industry Act 2021 and the Securities Industry Regulations 2023 that provide a complete legal framework ensuring that issuers or persons who need to raise capital bring well-structured offerings to the public, and investors have confidence and can understand that it's a regulated space, and it removes some of the uncertainty with the industry. The frontier, or perhaps the kind of title of the presentation, the frontier, we look at the trade-off between risk and reward, or risk and return. Risk is the probability that we will lose money, or the possibility that we may lose money on an investment. And return is the yield that we receive from holding that investment. That comes usually in the form of interest income, dividends, or capital gains. Generally speaking, as we move from left to right, left being low risk and right being high risk, on the horizontal axis, we expect that we need a higher rate of return for riskier assets. This is the foundation of understanding investments, insofar as we have all the way to the left treasury bills, which are 90-day instruments that we expect to have the lowest yield, and private equity or shares issued in companies with some of the highest risk in terms of the rate of return that we'll get. Other things being equal, they should have the highest rate of return. On the right, I'm quickly showing the government of Belize yield curve, or what the government is paying on debt at different maturities. And this is important because it's a benchmark for investors to understand what is an acceptable rate of return for a given time period of risk, as we, in domestic currency, we believe that the government is more or less risk-free. So what does this mean for the pillars that we spoke about? For investors, I think it's important that you know your investment. What are you investing in? Is it treasury bills? Is it bonds? Is it equity? Is it a private placement? Is it a cryptocurrency? Or is it something else? It's important that you understand the underlying asset that you're investing in and what is the risk or return that you will get from it. Verify the channel. I mentioned that we now have the Securities Industry Act and Securities Industry Regulations. So ensure that investment opportunities that you're discussing come from a licensed or regulated path. The prospectus or private placement memorandum should be signed off on by the Financial Services Commission, and there are continuing requirements for issuers to disclose information to investors. Beware of impersonation, phishing, and fake regulatory approvals, and I guess some of my colleagues will speak more about that. Interrogate the yield. I showed the yield curve because it gives a quick snapshot of what the government would pay for a particular period of time of using your funds. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. My suggestion would be check cash flows, check collateral, and check the covenants or the what the issuers or borrowers are required to do. In the theme of technology, use AI as a co-pilot, not as an oracle. We're all using AI and GPT, and while it's great for organizing information. I wouldn't base my investment and saving strategy totally on AI, as there's a serious risk of hallucination. For issuers, issuers are public or private firms or organizations that need to raise capital, whether it's debt or equity. Um, Transparency, I would say, is not compliance bureaucracy. It's your cheapest form of marketing. Um, Things for issuers or potential issuers to look at: readiness. I have a lot of conversations with persons who say, "Oh, you raise funds? Oh, I'm ready to raise funds." And when we have the conversations about readiness, maybe it will take them some time to actually be ready to access market-based financing. Some of the things you need include, but are not limited to, audited financials, realistic projections that are defensible, um, a business model that makes sense, and the type of instrument that you want to issue, debt or equity. You also need disclosure discipline. The requirements under the acts and regulations for how a prospectus or offering document should look, and their ongoing disclosure requirements to provide investors and the general market with snapshots of how the company or issuer is performing. Governance is also important: the composition of your board, policies and procedures, and your general legal and regulatory compliance. And then your distribution plan. Who's the real buyer here? Are you looking at institutional, professional, or retail investors? And how will you reach them? How will you settle with them? What kind of logistics are involved given today's financial infrastructure? Some of the issues that we need to work on together to improve our market include technology. In the private space, a lot of the securities are still paper-based. We want to move to dematerialize and digitize these assets, and hopefully we can use the Central Securities Depository to clear and settle securities. This would make trading more real-time and more available to the broader market. A big thing is opportunities like today for market education. We need to improve financial literacy across the board for issuers, those who need to raise capital, and for investors, those who are trying to save for a particular purpose. There's also opportunity. As I mentioned, there's excess liquidity and low rates of return on bank deposits. That means it's an opportunity for private sector firms, and particularly micro, small, and medium enterprises, to leverage the regulatory framework to raise capital. 70% or more of the businesses in Belize and globally are MSMEs. So we need to work together to find ways to help MSMEs to access market capital, given some of the readiness things that I had mentioned earlier. And in terms of policy, we can look at tax and other incentives to encourage development, like taxes on retirement investments and the removal of some of the fees associated with transferring shares and other forms of equity. To close, I'd like to thank again FSC for inviting me here. It was a pleasure speaking with you very quickly this morning on a number of topics. And I look forward to any questions in the Q&A section. So I'll turn over to Ms. Nilda.
Thank you, Mr. Magan. Your presentation delved into the importance of balancing opportunity and risk in today's market, and of course, what is responsible investor issuer behavior. A few takeaways is, what should investors consider? And I did some notes here, which is know your investment, verify the channel, and question the return. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. That is a key takeaway. And of course, how can you as an investor use AI, artificial intelligence, as a tool? And of course, you mentioned the issues that exist and which we recognize, which is technology, opportunity, policy, and of course, market education, which includes the importance of financial literacy. So for that purpose, it is my pleasure to welcome Carla Vaccaro, Assistant Manager, Payment System Oversight and Development at the Central Bank of Belize. She works in the Supervision Department of the Central Bank of Belize, where she leads efforts in payment system oversight and development. Ms. Carla brings extensive experience in financial sector oversight and regulatory compliance. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting from the University of Belize and is a certified anti-money laundering specialist. She plays a pivotal role in advancing Belize's financial infrastructure and is actively involved in the bank's expansion of digital financial services project, which includes the implementation of an instant payment system, a key component of the country's efforts in modernizing its payment ecosystem, and of course, promoting financial inclusion. Her work supports the central bank's mission to foster a secure, efficient, and inclusive financial system. We are very honored to have you among our experts for today's webinar. I know that you will be sharing on how the central bank is playing a key role in shaping the digital financial infrastructure. Welcome, Ms. Bakar.
Good morning to all, and thank you, Nilda, for that kind introduction. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the Central Bank of Belize for this invitation and for granting us the opportunity to share what we are working on and how we are shaping the digital infrastructure in Belize. Today's presentation will highlight 4 key strategic initiatives currently in progress, reflecting the central bank's commitment to modernizing the financial system, enhancing economic stability, and promoting financial inclusions. These strategic initiatives include instant payment system, digital financial education, investor portal, and risk-based supervision. These efforts are central to strengthening the digital footprint of the financial sector and ensuring it remains resilient, inclusive, and future-ready. To begin, let's look at one of the central bank's most transformative initiatives, the implementation of an instant payment system, or IPS. To understand the significance of this initiative, it's important to first consider Belize's current payments landscape. Belize is gradually transitioning from a predominantly cash-based society to one that embraces digital payments. However, rural communities continue to rely heavily on cash due to limited access to banking services and internet connectivity. The country's digital payment infrastructure is anchored by the Automated Payment and Settlement System, APS, which links all commercial banks and the Shared Services Network, the operator of credit unions. Payment services are further supported by global card networks such as MasterCard and Visa. While emerging technologies like digital wallets are gaining traction, many operate on proprietary platforms which limit full integration and system-wide interoperability. The need for a more inclusive, efficient, and interoperable solution has motivated the central bank to implement an IPS. Therefore, this initiative is being driven by several key factors, some of which include the need for low-cost payments, market needs and regulatory trends, innovation enablement, enhanced customer experience, payment digitization, and financial inclusion. With these drivers in mind, the aim is a seamless system enabling real-time accessible payments across financial institutions and providers. Now let's explore the IPS's key characteristics. An IPS operates continuously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. Transactions are processed and settled instantly, providing immediate confirmation and access to funds to both sender and receiver. The system connects different financial institutions and payment providers, allowing seamless transactions across platforms and networks. Users enjoy a smooth, intuitive payment process with minimal steps, making digital payments fast, simple, and reliable. Building on these core characteristics, let's now explore the specific features that make an IPS effective in delivering fast, secure, and inclusive payment services. These features include the alias or proxy management feature, which allows users to initiate payments using a secondary identifier, such as a phone number or email, making transfers faster and more convenient without needing full account details. QR codes provide a quick, low cost, and universal method for initiating payments, simplifying the process for both consumers and merchants. And lastly, the Request to Pay feature allows a payee to request the initiation of a payment from a payer, offering greater flexibility and control over how and when payments are made. With these features in place, an IPS brings significant benefits to the broader economy and to investors. In addition to improving everyday payment experiences, the IPS delivers meaningful benefits for the economy. In that, the IPS enhances financial inclusion, improves economic transparency, strengthens crisis response, encourages innovation and competition, and also supports monetary policy implementation. In summary, the IPS is more than a technological upgrade. It's a strategic enabler of financial inclusion, economic resilience, and innovation. Complementing this effort is another key strategic initiative, digital financial education, which aims to empower individuals and businesses with the knowledge and tools needed to confidently navigate the evolving digital financial landscape. To ensure our digital financial education strategy is both targeted and impactful, the central bank grounded its strategy in key findings from recent national surveys. The data reveals persistent sociodemographic gaps in financial literacy, particularly across gender, rural, urban divides, age groups, and educational levels, with only modest improvements between 2019 and 2023. Moreover, while awareness of digital financial services like mobile and online banking is relatively high, actual usage lags behind significantly, especially for tools like QR codes and peer to peer platforms. These insights underscore the need for tailored education efforts that not only raise awareness but also build confidence and capability in using digital financial tools. These findings made it clear that access alone is not enough. Our strategy is built on a clear and inclusive vision to enable people and businesses not just to access financial tools, but to use them effectively and safely, navigating risks, exercising their rights, and integrating financial services into their everyday lives. The vision guides our efforts to create tailored, practical, and empowering educational resources that meet Belizeans where they are and help them move forward with confidence in the digital financial landscape. To realize this vision, the strategy is guided by five core objectives that ensure our efforts are focused, inclusive, and responsive to the realities on the ground. These objectives provide a structured framework for action and collaboration across sectors. The digital financial education strategy aims to assess current financial capability and needs with a focus on underserved groups, to develop tailored evidence based programs that build confidence in using digital financial services, to use effective communication channels and adapt content to suit audience, context, and literacy levels, to define stakeholder responsibilities and establish structured collaboration mechanisms, and lastly, to implement robust tracking, evaluation, and feedback systems to drive continuous improvement. With a clear vision and well defined objectives, the digital financial education strategy is founded for more informed and empowered Belizeans in the digital landscape. Building on this momentum, we now turn to another transformative initiative, the implementation of the Investor Portal. To fully appreciate the significance of the Investor Portal, it's important to first understand the foundational role of the Central Securities Depository in managing financial instruments and auctions. The Central Securities Depository, CSD, operated by the central bank, plays a pivotal role in the country's financial infrastructure. As the primary and currently only CSD in Belize, it serves as a central hub for the safekeeping and settlement of securities. The CSD provides full management of primary market activities. This includes managing public auctions and overseeing the issuance and distribution of various financial instruments. It also maintains an online centralized electronic registry for dematerialized fixed income securities. So, building on the foundation established by the CSD, the central bank is now advancing its infrastructure with the launch of the Investor Portal. This initiative is designed to modernize how investors interact with the financial system, providing a modern, secure platform for investors to access, manage, and engage with investment opportunities in real time. The Investor Portal introduces new capabilities that empower investors. This new functionality is part of the central bank's recent upgrade to the national payment system. The Investor Portal was launched by the central bank on 3rd October 2025 and is expected to be accessible to both current and prospective investors by year end. The Investor Portal will be a public web application allowing investors to create user accounts, access their CSD portfolios, access public list of auctions, and place bid on their preferred auctions. It will also have them benefit from a 24/7 availability. In summary, the Investor Portal represents a major step forward in modernizing investor access. Now let's turn to our final strategic initiative, risk-based supervision. The central bank has adopted a risk-based supervisory approach. This approach marks a shift from traditional compliance-focused oversight to a framework that is forward-looking and structured. Risk-based supervision, RBS, evaluates risks with the financial system and prioritizes prompt supervisory intervention. The adoption of RBS aims to strengthen the central bank's supervision of its licensed and registered entities, bolster the resilience of the financial system, and align the central bank's supervisory framework with global industry standards. With this in mind, let's explore the key characteristics that define this approach. RBS focuses on identifying and mitigating risks before they escalate. The framework emphasizes continuous monitoring, assessment, and engagement with supervised entities. It prioritizes high risk areas and allocates supervisory resources accordingly. Through RBS, the central bank aims to ensure the innovation will be embraced responsibly without compromising the integrity and stability of Belize's financial system. In this context, cybersecurity risk has emerged as a critical area of focus. As cybersecurity emerges as a key risk in this digital era, the central bank is proactively enhancing its oversight to address growing threats in financial services. It has established comprehensive guidelines and enhanced supervisory protocols to help financial institutions manage cybersecurity risks effectively. Additionally, the central bank conducts IT assessments, including on site examinations, focused on cybersecurity and business continuity, and has enhanced incident reporting requirements to ensure timely detection and response. Recognizing that cyber threats are complex and constantly evolving, the central bank has taken a proactive step by establishing a dedicated cybersecurity committee. Formed in July 2018, the Cybersecurity Committee Financial Sector is a central bank led program focused on cybersecurity and risk management. The committee brings together key stakeholders from the financial sector and the government of Belize through the Information Technology Office, CITO. This diverse representation of technical experts ensures a holistic approach to cybersecurity across the financial sector. They host quarterly roundtable discussions to facilitate exchange of cyber incident reports, identification of emerging threats, analysis of sector-wide trends, and, and sharing of institution-specific initiatives. In summary, through RBS, the central bank reinforces its commitment to proactive oversight, ensuring financial institutions remain resilient and secure in an evolving risk landscape. As we've seen throughout this presentation, the central bank stands at the center, not just as a regulator, but as a steward of the financial system. Through its role as a catalyst, overseer, owner, and operator of payment infrastructures and schemes, it is driving transformation with purpose and responsibility. As we move forward, our commitment remains clear to build a financial ecosystem that is inclusive, resilient, and ready for the future, where innovation is matched by integrity and progress is guided by trust. We've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vaccaro, for sharing with us the role of central bank in technology and digital finance, and of course, the sharing with us the key strategic initiatives that are shaping the digital financial landscape here in Belize through the different initiatives such as the instant payment system, the digital financial education strategy, and of course the investor portal, which I believe we're looking forward to seeing at the end of 2025, and sharing with us your approach on the risk-based supervision. We thank you very much for sharing that information with us. It is my pleasure now to welcome Ms. Tricia McFoy. She serves as the Assistant Director of the Licensing and Authorizations Department here at the Financial Services Commission. She assists with overseeing the department's licensing and registration processes to ensure integrity and compliance of financial services providers and securities market participants in the sector. She is committed to supporting the development of Belize's financial services industry. In her role and capacity, she will be joining us and presenting to us what it is to build strong financial foundations. Welcome, Ms. Tricia.
Thank you, Ms. Sosa, for that welcome. And thank you, everyone, for joining us at IOSCA's World Investor Week 2025. So I will be discussing a bit as well on technology and digital finance, virtual assets, artificial intelligence in investing, the common types of frauds and scams, identifying red flags, and some general tips for smart investing. So Ms. Vaccaro before me indicated that technology and digital tools are now in the market and are being used. And indeed, it is a transformative way for accessing services in the financial services industry. It is creating innovative products and services. We are streamlining business operations and even expanding financial access and inclusion. Some of these innovative tools that are redefining the investment space currently includes virtual assets, artificial intelligence, digital trading platforms, as well as mobile wallets, which are just a few because there are many others out there, such as other web trading and gamification technological tools that are being used. So technology and digital finance, the benefits, just a few that I have highlighted to discuss here. It allows you to access a range of innovative financial services. It allows investment to become convenient and cost efficient, and it is helpful in making informed decisions. But it also carries some risk, such as exposure to fraud and misconduct, privacy and data security issues, and technical glitches, system failures, or outages that can occur with the use of technology. Moving into virtual assets, I know there has been a lot of buzz recently around virtual assets and purchasing crypto assets and other digital currencies. As defined by the Financial Services Commission Act, virtual assets is any digital representation of value that can be traded, transferred, or used for payment in investment purposes. It includes cryptocurrencies, stable coins, non-fungible tokens, and in-game currencies, but it does not include the digital representation of fiat currency. And fiat currency is, in simpler terms, current legal tender that is issued by the government. Virtual assets is currently prohibited under the Financial Services Commission Act, but this is set to expire in December 31st, 2025. With that said, the Commission has been taking steps to implement a digital assets framework in Belize. Earlier this year, we disseminated a questionnaire to regulated entities, other international organizations, as well as the general public to get an understanding of what they think would be the best way for us to regulate digital assets in Belize. We also instituted a digital assets steering group. This group consists of other regulators, government representatives, as well as other professional bodies. And the goal of this digital asset steering group is to provide the FSC with guidance on the best type of framework that should be used to provide guidance on risk management, investor education, among other key areas. As I had mentioned, this working group is currently developing a digital assets framework for Belize, and the whole goal is to ensure that a framework is developed that will promote digital assets in the country. Moving into artificial intelligence, I know we've all probably used artificial intelligence in some way or the other. It is a special kind of programming that helps machines learn, think, and make decisions just like humans do. Some examples that I have here are ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Claude AI. So artificial intelligence has been used in the investment space as well, and it is primarily used for data analysis and forecasting, for robo-advisor services or algorithmic trading, simply meaning that it can now be used to execute large volumes of trade instantly. Artificial intelligence has its benefits and risk as well. And I know Mr. Magan mentioned or touched briefly on this, but just to go a little bit more in depth. So you can get personalized investment recommendations. You can improve operational efficiency, especially for firms that are looking to process or analyze large volumes of data. And even for the individual who is looking to get some sort of analysis or forecasting. It can also enhance market analysis. The risk with AI is that it can at times hallucinate and produce misleading outputs. So, in the event that AI does not have complete or accurate data, then the data that it produces might be misleading. There could be data misuse concerns, and it is important that users of AI read the fine print to understand how these AI platforms will be using their personal data. There is also the risk of automation overuse. And again, just to stress the importance that AI should be used as a tool to assist and not to make your investment decisions for you or to rely solely on the use of it for investment purposes. Moving into fraud and scam prevention. Investment fraud is really just the deception at gaining some financial by obtaining some financial gain from targeting or unsuspecting investors. It is common in new and inexperienced investors. These are usually the individuals that are targeted by fraudsters, and this is why it is important that you become familiarized with the different types of investment frauds and scams and learn how to identify some very basic red flags. So some of the most common types of scams that we have listed here includes the Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme is really a scam that does not have a legitimate investment. So earlier investors are paid off with the funds from later investors in these schemes. For pump and dump schemes, this is where fraudsters would publish um, information that are misleading to increase the price of securities. And when the price rises, they would immediately sell these stocks to get out of stocks or securities to get out of them. For boiler room schemes, these are usually high tactic um, pressures by fraudsters to get you to invest in securities that are not really worth investing in. Impersonation schemes, as the name says, is really just fraudsters trying to impersonate legitimate entities or organizations. And these are some of the more common ones that we have observed. And typically, the Financial Services Commission would publish advisory or warning notices on its website. So it's also important that you guys check out the website and see who is regulated, who is not, and if any advisory notice was published. There is also the unlicensed selling of investment, and as the name says, pretty straightforward. Persons are selling investment without having the necessary license or without coming to the commission for approval of these securities. Social media influence has been on the rise lately. It is a new way for fraudsters to contact investors with fake endorsements or deceptive investment opportunities. And it is particularly important that you pay attention to the warning signs. You may have persons impersonating known figures such as political figures or other personalities that you are aware, and they may lead you to believe that these scams are legitimate. Recognizing the red flags. Unregistered entities or investment professionals are a red flag. They usually want to sell you investment without providing any form of documentation or claim that no registration is required to sell these investments. And again, it is important that you check the Commission's website to see the listing of entities that are regulated by the Commission, as we do keep a listing for the public on the website. Unsolicited investment offers. Investment offers from unknown sources should be approached with skepticism, and we encourage you to do your due diligence in these cases. Pressures to act quickly should also be considered a red flag. Fraudsters would often try to pressure you to make swift decisions in the hopes that you would make mistakes or give information willingly. Other red flags include the promise of guaranteed returns. So investors might come to you and tell you that if you invest in this security, it will guarantee high returns with little or no risk. This is typically a red flag, as all types of investments carry some degree of risk. So if they ever tell you no risk, then that is cause for concern. If you are not allowed to disclose the investment, this should also be considered a red flag, because regulated investment firms or regulated securities should not be considered confidential information, and you should be allowed to speak about the investment. If you are asked to send immediate payment of fees, you should also treat this as a red flag, and you should be skeptical about the request to send any fees abroad to personal accounts. How to prevent fraud and scam. As I had mentioned earlier, it is important to conduct due diligence on the investment products, the services, or the company that you are interested in investing with. visiting their website, visiting the commission website. Those are some ways you can conduct your own due diligence. Ask for information, ask them to provide you with documentation as well. You are encouraged to not share personal information, especially financial information or your identification, passwords, or bank information to unknown or unauthorized individuals. And as I've been mentioning before, verify on the FSC's website that the company is registered with us. If an investment sounds too good to be true, it likely is in most cases. Smart investing. What is smart investing? It really is the careful use of money to build wealth. It will vary from person to person because we all have different financial goals, and so my investment technique might not look the same as yours. It is about making informed decisions instead of guessing and thinking long term rather than chasing quick wins. But also important is that you minimize the risk and maximize potential returns. Benefits of smart investing really allows you to grow your wealth through passive income. And when we say passive income, it's that you don't have to put continuous efforts into earning revenue. It allows you to achieve financial goals. Perhaps you're investing for retirement or you're investing to buy a new house. Smart investing can help you with this. And also, it develops some sort of financial discipline for the investor. Some smart investor tips that we would like to leave you with today in, includes start investing early. Placing your money in a position for growth, no matter how small, can increase your wealth over time. It is important that you identify your goals and risk tolerance, as this can help you identify what investment options are most suitable for you. You're encouraged to diversify your investment. And typically you would hear the phrase, do not place all your eggs in one basket. And this is important because in the event your investment begins to lose value, then you don't have all your funds tied up in that one security. You're also encouraged to revisit and rebalance your portfolio occasionally so that your investments continue to align with your goals and your time horizon. Use trusted resources such as official or reputable websites, financial education platforms for continuous learning, and updates on regulations. Of course, stay skeptical of offers which are unsolicited to avoid scams and fraudulent schemes, and seek professional advice if needed. If you're a new investor or a seasoned investor who just wants professional advice, it is recommended that you contact a regulated professional to get investment advice. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation for this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Tricia. Thank you for sharing information related to the benefits, risks, and red flags on the use of artificial intelligence, technology, and digital finance, and of course, sharing tips on how to prevent scams and investment fraud, and of course, the future of crypto assets. Really insightful information. Thank you. We are now very pleased to welcome our last guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Hiro Balani. He is the current Chief Executive Officer of Finance Belize, which is a newly formed entity serving as the national agency mandated to promote the financial services sector in supporting its competitiveness and sustainable growth. Mr. Balani brings a wealth of experience in various managerial, technical, and operational roles, having worked in international development at the UN and the Inter-American Development Bank, as well as investment and trade promotion at Beltrade. He holds a Master of Science in International Development, Globalization, Trade, and Industry from the University of Manchester, UK, and a Master's in Project Management from the University for International Cooperation in Costa Rica. Mr. Balani will share with us what's the role of Finance Belize in advancing a sustainable and competitive financial services industry for Belize. How is this entity shaping the future? Welcome, Mr. Balani.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sosa, and many thanks again to the Financial Services Commission for the opportunity to join today's webinar as part of World Investor Week. A warm welcome to all our participants online. So as shared by Ms. Sosa, we will be going through a bit of who Finance Belize is, and as shared, it is a newly formed organization that's really here to support the growth of the financial services sector in Belize sustainably and competitively. So I will share a bit more of who Finance Belize is, on a bit of our partners and our current work, but also how we are going to be working to really market and promote Belize globally as an international financial center to leverage all of the areas presented by the previous speakers. You can see that a lot of work is going in to building our digital platforms, to ensuring that we meet global standards and compliance. And so now it is the time to ensure that we can attract the investors we need to grow the sector. So to start off with, as shared, the mandate of Finance Belize is to lead the marketing and promotional efforts for the financial services sector. We were incorporated as a company in October of 2023, and we have an official legislation that was recognized by Parliament in November of 2024. Since then, there have been several studies, and we do have a strategic plan in place that takes us from 2023 to 2028 in our current work, and a marketing strategy that has been developed. Just again, a bit of an overview of who Finance Belize is. Our main vision is to develop a compliant and globally respected international financial services sector in Belize that drives growth. We have our mission and core values as well, and most of this information can be found on our website as well. Now, one of the key ways in which we want to drive competitiveness and growth is to work with all the partners, work with all of you online, and also the partners that have presented here today. So one of the first things we have done is to develop a technical advisory committee quite extensively with 14 members, you can see there. And they are really going to be supporting us. We have kicked this off in July of this year to really shape the promotion efforts of Finance Belize and also the branding of the financial services sector in Belize, so that we can ensure we attract bona fide investment interests. And again, as shared by our previous speakers, we have conducted full due diligence on, and that can enter the market to help grow the sector. In terms of the current economic context of the financial services sector, the Statistical Institute of Belize has shown the contribution of the financial services sector to GDP over the past 4 years. You can see that it ranges between 7.3% to most recently 8.2% in 2024. Now, in Belize, we tend to typically think of the tourism sector as the main economic driver, and then followed by agriculture. But throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, the financial services sector was one of the sectors that remained resilient and operational. And so again, Finance Belize's efforts is again to grow this contribution to our GDP. Unfortunately, this data mainly captures data from the Central Bank of Belize and the institutions regulated by the Central Bank. However, the non-banking sector is currently not captured. And so we are working with the SIB to ensure that this is the case, and so we can report our full economic impact. So some of the key challenges I think we have gone through in terms of the current global financial landscape and investor landscape. But I think we would all realize that over the past years, Belize has done quite a bit to become one of the most globally compliant jurisdictions according to FATF standards. But the global de-risking and pressure from international standard setters continues. And so there continues to remain a push for jurisdictions like Belize that want to become an international financial center to ensure that we remain compliant. I think previous colleagues have all shared the need for education and more human capital development. So we do need more specialized talent in financial services to grow the sector to the next level. And then again, we spoke a bit more on digital transformation and cybersecurity threats. But lastly, Belize is one of many players in this space. So on the next slide, you will see that there are several established international financial centers, which many of us know of, from Singapore, Hong Kong, London. These are all the well-established areas. But where is our niche is where we're trying to define the role of Finance Belize. Several other financial services jurisdictions have a dedicated entity like Finance Belize to promote the sector. You will see, of course, BVI Finance Cayman, there's Nevis Finance, Mauritius Finance, just to share a few examples on screen. Now, what is our value proposition as Belize to attract investment in the financial services sector? We've outlined 10 core reasons of why Belize, but I want to single out two key ones. As I shared, Belize is currently a global leader in regulatory compliance. We meet 38 out of 40 Financial Action Task Force recommendations based on the recent mutual evaluation review in 2025. So that is a great milestone for Belize and a great selling point in terms of our value proposition. But beyond that is all of the efforts in digital transformation that remain ongoing in the sector. The central bank has shared its investor portal, but beyond that, I believe the Financial Services Commission is also working on a licensees platform. But our online business registry system itself has been awarded twice globally in 2023 and 2025. So again, kudos to Belize for pushing all of the digital transformation efforts and to all of the regulators online and all of stakeholders a part of this. So just to close off, again, Finance Belize will focus its work and promotional efforts across 8 priority sectors. These are wealth management, securities and capital markets, company formation, international banking, the maritime registry, corporate financial services, insurance, and lastly, fintech and digital assets. Now, as shared by the Financial Services Commission, with digital assets, the regulations are currently underway, so that's really a pipeline sector. But in terms of the other areas, there are several opportunities that we continue to work on. Belize is working on an updated Trust Act under wealth management, which should help to push more different types of structures for trust and asset protection. As shared by Chris earlier, the securities and capital markets is an opportunity for us to develop more real estate funds or mutual funds and look at more securities trading. With company formation, there's a lot of opportunities for persons to establish LLCs in Belize or holding companies, which we know several are using for real estate. And then, of course, we have 3 international banks that are currently providing services to clients globally. And we have the maritime registry with Imarbe that has the Belize flag for high seas vessels and other vessels globally. So just to share, these are our 8 priority sectors that we will be working to promote. The core services of Finance Belize is to be an integrated one-stop shop for information. We will support national marketing and promotion efforts for the sector and also industry networking events. And lastly, training and capacity building resources. So really, we want to bring investors in throughout the investment cycle until they are able to stay in Belize and invest in Belize. Our strategic plan is focused on 4 core pillars, and I think you will note that they do progress strategically. I think many on the call have shared the importance of human capital development. So that's our first pillar, where we will be doing a human capital skills gap assessment for the industry and trying to ensure that our universities and training institutes are training the skills that we need for the future to grow the sector and make it more competitive. In terms of compliance and policy advocacy, this is where we're working to update our regulations and legislation to ensure that we're able to compete and remain relevant in terms of the growth of the global financial sector. So in terms of digital assets, as we said, we're working on a regulation for this and also updating several regulations to become more competitive, such as the Trust Act. Marketing, communications, and public relations. Again, in this area, Finance Belize will be going to different events and publishing different publications and media campaigns to ensure that Belize is known for financial services. And lastly, stakeholder engagement and partnerships is that we want to build inclusive partnerships at all levels to help promote Belize as an international financial hub. Just to share a few recent examples, we have been published in the Panorama edition in March this year in a dedicated piece on financial services, and we continue to attend different events globally to really push the sector and ensure that persons know Belize offers several opportunities in the various areas shared, from capital markets to asset protection to company formation. All of these services can be accessed in Belize and competitively. So this is just a few snippets of recent efforts. So in terms of closing off, opportunities for strategic partnerships, again, if you are open to looking at opportunities to partner with Finance Belize to help grow the sector, we're very open to that. So we're looking at promoting Belize through our diplomatic networks, attending promotional events, trade shows, and ensuring that Belize has a presence. You will see the other jurisdictions do promote competitively and heavily. And so for Belize, we do need to ensure that our brand is out there and that we can attract bona fide investors as shared. So there's just a few opportunities for strategic partnerships. And again, eventually we will be working on a membership program. So I will end there. And again, close off back to you, Ms. Sosa, for the moderation of the Q&A. But many thanks again for the invitation to have Finance Belize share more on our role in growing the sector.
Thank you, Mr. Balani. Thank you for highlighting the role of Finance Belize in addressing, of course, industry challenges and enhancing global competitiveness and driving long-term sustainable development through investment facilitation, and of course, being that hub that connects opportunities in the financial sector here in Belize and with investors. Thank you very much. So we're gonna be initiating our Q&A. I believe that we have a few questions. I expected a lot more. We do have a very broad audience, but I think you guys did an excellent job. And we will start with the first question, which is, would it be illegal for borrowers to offer investment opportunity to only individuals in their particular sector? For example, in the tourism industry. I'll have Ms. Tricia, maybe you can take that on.
Hi, sure, Ms. Nilda. So issuers that are looking to borrow from individuals, whether it be the public or specific individuals, they would need to file a prospectus or offering document with the commission. And once the commission reviews and is satisfied, you will be issued a receipt to proceed with this offering. So irrespective of if it's just to certain individuals, you would still need to come to the commission to file that document with us.
Thank you. I'll move on. If anybody else wants to add to that response. If not, I'll move on to the next question. When evaluating the safety of a digital asset fund, what due diligence items become even more critical when assessing a fund in a jurisdiction like ours in Belize? And how can that framework actually provide a higher degree of clarity and safety for an investor? Either Chris or Tricia?
Want to just repeat the beginning of the question again for me, please?
Sure. When evaluating the safety of a digital asset fund, what due diligence items become even more critical when assessing a fund in a jurisdiction like ours here in Belize? And how can that framework actually provide a higher degree of clarity and safety for an investor? So I believe the question is the safety itself of a digital asset fund and the due diligence items involved.
I think it's across the board in terms of assessing any investment. What are the underlying assets that are being put into this fund? Who are the fund managers or sponsors? What is their background track record? What is the investment strategy? What are the risks and what are the rewards of the or potential rewards associated with the fund that you're looking at? I think it's important to look at the offering documentation. Even if it's a digital fund, they should have documentation that gives a clear explanation of what their investment strategy is, what are the parameters of digital assets that they would be allowed or permitted to invest in, and what are the reporting requirements or ongoing reporting requirements to investors. It's important because it's not just at the point of sale that the requirements exist. They continue to exist as you hold the investment. And speaking of holding, a key consideration is the liquidity of the investment. How much trading has happened in the past or is likely to happen with the fund that you're looking at? Because if there is a situation where you need to sell, there may not be a buyer readily available, or you could incur significant losses getting out of the position. So that's important.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. I hope that provided the answer that whoever made that question. We will move on to another question here. It says, what is Belize doing to overcome the bureaucracy? No, that's a very general question. I believe you mean in the investment climate of the financial services sector. I'm not sure, but if somebody can take that question, we can address it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think if I may chime in, I think many may be aware that there is the initiative called the Belize Investment and Business Climate Action Plan, BIBCAP, which really is an effort and initiative to try to look at those areas to improve. I think previously, we have the World Bank Doing Business report, which has been discontinued, but which pointed to several areas of improvement in the doing business climate. But the main perspective I can share from our knowledge is, I know there is the Economic Development Council, there is the BIBCAP, which aims to look at all the issues and try to make things easier for investment across all levels, from MSMEs to large-scale investors. So that's the main thing that comes to mind to share on that. But yes, that is quite a broad question in terms of overcoming bureaucracy, and I think it requires quite a bit of the policy advocacy efforts at various levels. So I do know as well the Economic Development Council is trying to launch a You Reform Belize kind of QR code, where if there's a policy issue or an investor has an issue, they can log it at the Economic Development Council at the Office of the Prime Minister. So just to share, there are some tools available, but again, yes, quite a broad question. So over back to you, Ms. Sosa.
So maybe, Tricia, you can touch a bit on the ease of doing business and the initiatives that we have been driving from FSE. Touching on
Yes, sure.
bureaucracy and how we're trying to address that.
Sure. So just from the FSC's point of view, Mr. Balani mentioned that we are launching our licenses system. And so this is really to streamline the application process and making it more efficient for applicants to get a license or registration in Belize. So that is one way that we are working on overcoming those challenges from the FSC's end. Of course, we have other ongoing projects, but definitely we will be sharing more as those progress.
And of course, the launch of our licensees, which is our online portal for applications, is aligned to the continuous digital transformation deriving from the online business registry system, which aims to facilitate the incorporation of companies and businesses. So that is an effort that we have been driving and supporting from the onset to ensure that from the beginning there is that ease of doing business and providing that facilitation for the investor. There is a question here directed to the central bank. What assets exactly will be on the central bank investment portal? Ms. Vaccaro.
Thank you, Nilda. Currently, we have government securities, including the treasury bills and treasury notes, and we also have the BWS debentures. So at the moment, there is no precise plan to expand, but that's the intention. As the market grows, other forms of security will be welcomed on this platform.
Thank you so much. A question for Finance Belize, Mr. Balani. What specific measurable initiatives is your top priority for the coming year or years to not only attract foreign direct investment, but to ensure that progress is felt tangibly within the local Belizean economy and community? And how will you measure its success?
Okay, well, very good question. And yeah, definitely sounds like we need to share the strategic plan. But for sure, there are several key initiatives that we're working on across the 4 pillars that I shared, from human capital development, policy advocacy, marketing, and partnerships. But I think the key top initiative or top priority is marketing. We definitely recognize Belize has low visibility as an international financial center or a financial services hub. And so when we're out there, persons have actually said, oh, we did not know we can access all of these services in Belize. I did not know I can do a trust or establish a company. So in terms of the metrics, I think the key would be to increase our visibility over the coming years. But beyond attracting foreign investment and ensuring the local Belizean economy feels the impact, as I shared, the impact on the GDP is key. But I think beyond that, it's employment. The more companies we are able to attract to incorporate, the more work will be for registered agents here. So there are indirect effects that will be felt, but also as we grow the capital markets, again, it will be to ensure that there's more employment generation in the sector. Beyond that, as I mentioned, the human capital skills gap assessment is another top priority for us to ensure that we're able to advocate for the types of training for the future of the industry. So I think top two priorities is visibility and human capital development for us in the coming year. But I hope that helps. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Balani. And of course, we can always direct the public to your website. I believe that you may have some information there that could be of use. And of course, I know that Finance Belize have a Facebook page, LinkedIn page, where you keep the public very well informed. So guys, if you have not followed Finance Belize, I do know that they do have those social media platforms. And of course, the information is out there. It's a matter of just reaching out to obtain it. I have a question here, which is general, and anybody can, it's not directed at a specific speaker, but it says, from your experiences, what's a first smart step for beginners interested in getting into investing? I'll have Chris initiate that response. Chris, from your experience, smart first step for beginners interested in getting into investing.
Well, I think that's a very good question. I think it's to assess where you are in your personal life journey. Insofar as what's your budgeting, personal, financial, and investment plan? Is it to have a certain level of savings, or is it to start investments? And then it's to kind of educate yourself about what is available, and then form clear goals in terms of what your investment goals are. Do the research about what type of investments are available, and then start slowly. Get a second opinion, just like when you're seeing a doctor, get a second opinion. As I mentioned, there's a lot of tools now, right? It's not like 20 years ago. You could use AI as a great start to say, what are some of the typical investment opportunities that are available? And then from that, you journey on to looking at real sources like the FSC website, Central Bank of Belize website. I saw a question in the general chat. Someone asked, what are the coupons on treasury notes? And I'll skip ahead to that very quickly to say that it varies depending on the time to maturity. And it's on the first page of the Central Bank website. There's a section that says interest rates, and then you go to government securities yields, and it shows you 1 year is X, 2 years is this, 5 years is that. And it's stuck in my browser history because of how often the Central Bank of Belize website to check the yields as a reference for decision making. So I think, again, it depends on your personal goals. If you're young and starting your investment journey, you might be willing to take more risk, right? So the types of investment that you be willing to take on might be different. If you're approaching pension, or cashing out a pension, you might be wanting to take less risk so that you can preserve capital and just get interest income to manage the stage of life that you're in. Okay.
Thank you, Chris. And I think your response brings us back to the entire purpose of the World Investor Week. Your reference to the question on the duration and coupon on the treasury notes does provide us the ability to recognize that research is really important. As an investor, you stay informed, you stay protected, which is the thematic focus of the overall initiative, global initiative that IOSCO has as part of the World Investor Week efforts. Research is critical. There are tools, there's information out there, but you need to get educated to ensure and understand what is it that you're reading. Engage the stakeholders that can guide you through the process so that you ensure that you make smart investment decisions. Anybody would like to add to what Chris indicated? I know that the question on the treasury, I'm not sure if central bank wants to add to that, but it's the duration and coupon. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add on that.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for that. I'd just like to give a little bit more on the treasury bills. They range from three months to 6 months. And for the treasury notes, as you rightfully said, it's between a range, and they can range from 1 year to 20 years as well.
Thank you. Okay, so I have another question here. Given Belize would be, no, sorry. Given Belize would more be considered as money market, do you think Belizeans will get a chance to invest in stocks and gold before 2030? I do realize there are efforts being made towards Belize having a fully developed capital market, but do you think that the market will be ripe by 2030?
I guess I could take a stab at that one. I think that where we are is typical in terms of market development, where you see the debt market growing first before the equity market. I I think that Belizeans also, when you have, in my experience, the conversations about investments, we're wanting certainty in terms of the rate of return, and that's why there's a preference for debt or fixed income. However, the cap on what companies or entities can reasonably pay is sort of limited, and that's where you move along the risk frontier to get to equity. I'm hopeful that by 2030 we'll be able to have more equity issues. The framework is there, even though there's not an exchange. The Securities Industry Act and securities industry regulations provide the framework for companies to issue equity to the public. And there is some equity that's been offered to the public from the utilities. There are equity issues from BTL, BEL, and BWS. The challenge is that there's not an active secondary market as most persons buy and hold. There's also some administrative issues, as I had mentioned. Trading these securities can take a while to clear and settle because it is paper-based, and there are some um, hurdles that need to be met prior to actual effecting the transfer. So hopefully by 2030 we can move these to more digital representations and have a digital first in terms of issuance going forward, whether it's an over-the-counter OTC market or a formal exchange. I think that definitely by 2030 we expect to see more offerings. In terms of commodities, you asked specifically about gold. I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. All right.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. I don't know if Finance Belize or FSC would want to add to the response. We also do hope that by 2030 that will be the case, that Belizeans can be at, we as a country could be ready for more investment in stocks. I believe that I don't see any more questions unless there is, let me see. Belize appears to be lagging behind in facilitating international investment inflows and cross-border financial transactions through its banking system. Could you explain the main factors contributing to this challenge and what measures are being taken? Finance Belize, do you want to take that on, or Central Bank?
I could start. So, as it is right now, there is a conversation as it relates to cross-border transactions, particularly among Caribbean countries. However, you know that Belize is currently has a peg. So these are along with the foreign exchange topic and interoperability challenge. These are things that we must consider as a country before even engaging in these types of activities. So while they offer convenience, they offer many other benefits to users. You know, as a country, there are several things that we have to first consider. And as I said, it would be the foreign exchange and interoperability as two main challenges.
Okay,
But
thank
just to
you.
add a little bit more, I think it's very important to note the many initiatives that the country is engaging in. The central bank has its own initiatives going on. The FSC, PPF makes its own contributions to the sector as well as Finance Belize. So there is work being done. So I think that is something, a key takeaway that we must have, that Belize is working, and we're not there yet, but we're on the way. And I think that's something very important to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think the only contribution I can make from our side on that is, on the cross-border inflows. I mean, I think if you look at the remittance figures, even so from the diaspora, quite significant remittance flows do come into Belize. And again, as mentioned by the central bank, it's about the interoperability and how our system can communicate to facilitate greater cross-border transactions. But I understand that there are some initiatives to also look at the diaspora and the remittance flows for an easier access, I guess, in terms of, there are several other systems used, Western Union or MoneyGram, etc. So there are some efforts as well there to look at a platform for easier cross-border financial transactions, not in the sense of a transaction, but in the sense of remittance flows. So that would be my contribution there. But again, this would really be for the central bank and, as mentioned by Carla, interoperability of the systems, right? So.
Thank you so much, both of you. There are a few more questions. We have a couple more minutes on the Q&A segment. Can you talk about the possibility of a real estate investment trust in Belize to support equitable real estate ownership among residents in Belize?
I guess I can take that one. What I would say is that the legislative framework is now there for the formation of real estate investment trusts. I think there was an amendment passed to the securities industry regulations that define real estate investment fund, and there are some other benefits with stamp duty, etc., that accrue to such funds. I think what needs to happen from a private sector perspective is to put together a business model that could actually lead to the launching of a real estate investment fund. Anecdotally, what I've observed is that real estate has been the quote unquote stock market where everybody is kind of putting a lot of their investment goes into real estate because that's where prices appreciate. What I would say about real estate is while it's a great asset class, there's limited transparency in terms of what the selling price is and what the rates of return are. And it is illiquid, and it can take time to actually close a transaction and perfect the transfer of a real estate asset. This is where a fund might help. But again, coming back to the question, the legislative framework is there. It's up to the private sector to work with arrangers like PPF Financial to bring a real estate investment fund to market.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I have another question here. What are the main reasons Belize faces difficulties in receiving international investment funds through its banks? And what strategies are being considered to improve this situation?
I could touch on it quickly or start the conversation. I think it might have been in Hero's presentation where he spoke about the correspondent banking challenges that Belize had faced when the de-risking episode happened around 2013, 2014, as global pressures came down. That changed the landscape in terms of, because clearing and settlement of payments internationally happens typically through the SWIFT system, and banks in Belize don't actually, there's some vault cash, but operationally they execute transactions through correspondent banks. We went through a significant transition where most banks had at least two tier one, quote unquote, correspondent banks, and then the coverage of the jurisdiction dropped significantly. Again, as Hero mentioned, significant work has been done to strengthen the AML-CFT framework and the general legal framework to improve the jurisdiction, and we're seeing now tier one correspondent banks beginning to rebank or relook at the jurisdiction. A lot of that is outside our control. So operationally, those are just some of the challenges that we face. And what also happens is when there's a crisis, there can be a sort of overreaction in terms of taking CDD, customer continuing due diligence, to the most extreme implementation. I'll try and choose my words very carefully. And that may be some of the friction or some of the causes of friction with clearing and settling international payments in this jurisdiction.
Excellent.
Wants to add to it.
I'm not sure if central bank will add to that question.
No, I'm good, Nilda.
The response. I hope that that answered the question indeed. Um, what efforts are being undertaken individually or collectively to increase awareness and participation by the general public in investing, financial literacy, etc.? Central Bank.
Hi, yes, thank you. Um, Along with the initiatives that we presented on today, we also have one that addresses financial inclusion, and that has already concluded its initial phase, which achieved majority of the intended objectives at the time. Um, and that in itself captures financial literacy as well. Through the digital financial education strategy, I think I had highlighted the fact that we consider surveys that have been done within the country. I think the central bank just recently, in Q1 of 2025, partnered with PPF Capital as well to conduct a survey to see what were the results for when it relates to digital financial literacy. And that then informed the strategy. So phase one has concluded and we're about to commence phase two as well.
Excellent. And from our end at FSC, in fact, this webinar is part of one of our efforts. However, during the year, we do have a public um, investor education and protection campaign as well. It's a program that we initiated last year, actually this year, as part of our strategic plan that was launched early this year. Under our Securities Industry Act, we do have a mandate of public education, specifically focused on investor education and protection. The World Investor Week is one of our main activities for the year, where our focus is on sharing key messaging, and we joined the global campaign being advocated by IOSCO among its members, international organizations, and other key stakeholders. There is more of a comment, but I think that we can add to this. The comment is, I hear comments that persons should read on immersing themselves in options available to become more financially literate. However, the reality is that the culture of financial planning and investing is not one that's common. I think we will agree on that. And the entire effort that we are driving from the FSC is to indeed start working on that culture. We need to start somewhere. One of our key stakeholder groups is our youths. We work very closely with schools from secondary to tertiary level, because we do believe that we have to start working from the onset on shifting that mindset so that the culture can change. So that is one of our primary objectives behind our public investor education and investor protection program. I don't know if Central Bank wants to touch on that, since I know financial inclusion and financial literacy is at the core of Central Bank strategy as well.
Thank you, Nilda. Yes, I'd like to add that as a coordinated effort to address financial inclusion, there is a National Financial Inclusion Working Group, and that includes several stakeholders from many sectors across the country. And what that does is to bring together a more combined and cohesive effort when addressing the issues that we highlight through financial inclusion. So that would be my only add at the moment.
Excellent. Um, There's one more question. As someone working in local government, I see the potential for digital payment systems to increase efficiency and transparency. What opportunities or challenges do you foresee for municipalities integrating with national digital payment platforms? That's for a central bank.
So thank you for that question. I think this gives us a start to market or future instant payment system. But what I can say, I could start with the opportunities. I touched briefly on some of these, and I think for the demand selling on the street, that's the main idea or the benefit to them. So having an instant payment system or digital payments allows every person to be able to send and receive payments instantly. So what that does is, for example, if I have I'm purchasing vegetables at the vegetables shop, I can the person can bill me by sending me a request to pay, and all I have to do on my phone is to press accept, and that automatically transfers the payment to the vendor. So there are several opportunities for MSMEs, small businesses to grow. It provides them instant cash flow, and I think that's a good thing for investors as well, that payments are immediate. There are no delays, there's no friction in the system as well, and you don't have to be sharing a lot of account details. Everything within the digital platform will be connected to your account directly. So I think there are several things that we can await with the implementation of the IPS. As it relates to challenges, that to me would be the education part of it. In order for users to fully take advantage of digital payments or digital services, they must be aware and have the know-how of how to use these services. And I think the component of digital financial education will complement the implementation of the IPS. It's for that reason that we want to merge those two together to ensure that there's greater access, there's greater use. And I think also in the presentation, we highlighted that there's a gap between awareness and usage. So we foresee that with the digital financial education strategy, we may close that gap a little bit more. So usage is very important, and to maximize and access as well. It will allow different communities that are far reaching at the moment to be included within our system. But one of the challenges we're facing right now is connectivity. There is not internet connectivity every part of Belize. So we have communities that are reliant on our neighboring countries, and that would be those communities that are near the border. So we foresee that this implementation is not just a standalone initiative for the central bank. It requires partnership with different players outside of the financial sector. And in this case, it will be the telecommunication companies, so that we could see the true value of what the instant payment can bring.
Thank you, Ms. Carla. And unfortunately, we have come to a close as it relates to our Q&A segment. If there are any questions that we did not answer, we will try to share it with the respective speakers and see if we can reach out to the person who made it to provide a response. The presentation will be on our website. We have details will be shared by the coordinators. And it's my pleasure to close off this webinar. And, our World Investor Week kicked in October 6th, that was Monday, and it will close off October 12th, which is Sunday. We take pride in the meaningful engagements and educational initiatives, of course, that mark this important global observance. This week has been a true reflection of our ongoing commitment to promoting financial literacy, investor protection, and smart decision-making in today's digital financial environment. Our featured webinar, which was held today, which was Empowering Investors Key Strategies for Safe Financial Practices in a Digital World, provided valuable insights on identifying and avoiding online financial scams, protecting personal data, and adopting responsible investment practices. In addition to the webinar, our outreach efforts included interactive social media features, educational posts, and community engagement activities, which were aimed at raising awareness about the importance of informed investing and financial resilience. We visited schools across Belize and engaged students in key thematic areas of the World Investor Week, which included technology and digital finance, artificial intelligence, fraud and scam prevention, cryptocurrency, and the basics of investing. We also ran a social media campaign sharing key messages for investors, expanded on our Investor Center, which is a dedicated website providing information and tools to help you become a smart investor. And engaged, of course, with the media, which is a key stakeholder, to ensure our messages reached the public as widely as possible. On behalf of the Financial Services Commission, of course, the Director General, and our entire team here, I extend sincere appreciation to our coordinating team here at FSC that had the main responsibility to coordinate the World Investor Week, which is our communications and PR team, our licensing and authorizations department, our support staff, our speakers that were very, did not hesitate to partner with us for this webinar and in other initiatives that we held during the World Investor Week. And of course, the participants. I believe all your contributions made this year's World Investor Week a success. Your active participation helped bring these important messages to life. Thank you for being part of World Investor Week 2025. Together, we are building a more confident, informed, and resilient investor community. We look forward to engaging with you throughout the remainder of 2025 as we continue our efforts in public and investor education and protection, of course, going into 2026. And of course, we look forward to celebrating World Investor Week 2026 with you all. So thank you once again and have an amazing Friday.